Yeah, absolutely. So normally most of the things I sing are, let me just move over here. Most of the things I sing, it's usually me and a pianist. So things are not usually written for just a solo singer, I guess, in isolation in a hotel room. But I figured I'd do a couple things that would translate relatively well. So I'm just going to do three little pieces. The first is a song by the great British composer Roger Quilter, Come Away Death, and it's the first of his set of three Shakespeare songs, settings of Shakespeare sonnets. So this is Come Away Death. Come away, death, and inside cypress let me be laid. Fly away, breath. I am slain by a fair cruel maid. My shroud of white stuck on with you. Oh, prepare it, my part of death. No one so true did share it. Not a flower sweet, on my black coffin let there be strewn. Not a friend greet, my poor corpse where my bones shall be thrown. A thousand sighs to save, lay me away. Sad true love never find my grave to weep there, to weep, to weep there. So that was Come Away Death by Roger Quilter, normally with piano, and even better with piano. Yeah, and I meant to say at the beginning as well, just a real thank you to the Playford family for taking such good care of us. It's, I think, all of us who ended up on the bus to here feel certainly very lucky that we got a good roll of the dice. So thank you so much to everyone at the Playford, the staff and the nurses and everyone who's just been so kind and making this process as bearable as usual, or as bearable as possible. So next, second out of three, this is a song that was actually written to be a cappella by another wonderful British composer named Jonathan Dove, who's a modern composer, still living. And this is called My Love Is Mine. It's a setting of text from the Song of Songs, the biblical text. Oh, stand up, my love, my dove, my beautiful, and come. Oh, stand up, my love, my dove, my beautiful, and come. Winter is past, and the rain is away and gone. The flowers are come up in the field. The twisting time is come. The vines bear fruits and apples that grow therein. My love is mine and I am hers. My love is mine and I am hers. My love is his until the daybreak and the shadows begone. Until the daybreak and the shadows begone. And of my love, my beautiful honeycomb. Oh, stand up, my love, my beautiful honeycomb. Out of the caverns of the rocks, out of the holes of the wall. Oh, let me see thy countenance and hear thy voice. For sweet is thy voice and my love is mine and I am hers. My love is mine and I am hers. My love is mine, which hath among the lilies, until the daybreak and the shadows be gone. And then last up, I was thinking again of things that would work relatively well with just me alone in my room on the third floor. And another thing that came to mind is a piece that I love to perform that I'm going to be performing in my recital here with the festival, actually. And it's a traditional Jewish prayer, really. This is a setting of a traditional Jewish prayer. And that's the faith and culture I grew up in. And it also seemed, and this is called Avinu Malcanu, which is really a prayer we say on the high holidays as we're kind of entering the new year and as you sort of enter these new beginnings. It's a prayer for healing and peace and compassion. And as an American, it's a pretty exciting and historic day. I was up at 3 o'clock this morning watching the inaugural festivities from Washington, and as America, at least hopefully, sort of turns a page and starts a new chapter, a much needed new chapter, this seemed like kind of an appropriate thing to sing today. So this is Avinu Malcanu, and this is the setting by Max Janowski. And if you've never heard this setting was made famous by Barbra Streisand, and I certainly recommend her rendition. Avinu Malcanu, Shema Koleinu. Avinu Malcanu, Chatanu lefanecha. Avinu Malcanu, Chamor aleinu, Ve'alon aleinu, Ve'tapeinu. Avinu Malcanu, Kali dever, Ve'cherev ve'rav, Me'aleinu. Avinu Malcanu, Kali chol tzar, U'mastin, Me'aleinu. So there we go.
Amazing. Thank you so much. That is wonderful. Um,
My pleasure.
all right. So we do have it open in the post. So if anyone that is watching and would like to ask Aryeh any questions, maybe you can start us off, Aryeh, just do a little telling us a little bit about yourself. We've had a little bio going through um, for most of today, saying some things, but coming straight from you, I'm sure would be wonderful.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, my name's Aryeh Nussbaum Cohen. I'm a countertenor, which is a pretty kind of unique voice type. I would say it's the most rare of voice types in classical music. And I'm happy to talk more about how it kind of works physiologically if anyone's interested, or just about being a countertenor. Because as you can sort of hear, I sing higher than most men, or than you might expect when I stand up to sing. But yeah, I'm American. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. I got into opera kind of late, relatively late, at least for a singer. I was in university studying. While I was there, I won a free ticket from the music department to see an opera at the Metropolitan Opera, and I'd never seen an opera before. And this was the end of my freshman year, and I went and I loved it, and sort of kind of fell into it, and yeah, and it's been a lot of fun, and it's kind of gotten to take me to lots of fun places. That's probably my favorite thing about being an opera singer, and being here in Adelaide is high up on the list of the places I'm most excited to have traveled to. And it's my first time in Australia, first time in the Southern Hemisphere,
Oh,
and
wow.
yeah, I'm excited to get out and about in 5 more days.
Well, that answered my next question to you, which was how much longer do you have with us? We do have a rotation of quarantine guests coming through. So lucky 5 days to go. I'm
Yeah.
sure everyone that is leaving at the same time as you would love to say hi and see you in real life.
For
We
sure.
do have a couple of questions coming through here, which is awesome. Hannah Rowe says amazing.
Oh, thank you.
And Taylor Green, or our lovely Taylor from our quiz, who's probably been competing against you, uh, says your favorite place and audience that you have performed at.
Ooh. I would give different answers. My favorite audience that I've performed for has got to be the Metropolitan Opera. It's kind of the mecca of opera, and it's where I grew up in New York, and where I saw my first operas and such. And a couple years after I graduated from university, when I first graduated, I didn't have a music degree. I ended up studying history, and I applied to various kind of master's programs in voice to go get a music degree. And I got into the finals a lot of places, but then I got rejected from everywhere I applied to, and so then I kind of had to put together my own sort of training program. And during that time, I went to, I mean, hundreds of performances at the Met over these couple of years, just trying to kind of soak in as much as I could. And then 3 years after I had graduated, I kind of on a whim, or actually no, it was only 2 years. 2 years after I graduated, on a whim, I entered the Metropolitan Opera competition. It's called the Metropolitan Opera National Council auditions, and it's kind of like the American Idol of opera, at least in America. And there are like over 100 districts all over the country, and you started at the district level, and then if you get passed on to regional, to go to Hollywood, to the Met, and sing on that stage was formed for. But favorite place, I would say so far, I've gotten to go to a lot of amazing European cities, and I didn't travel a lot growing up. And probably the most kind of like surprisingly beautiful and exciting was being in Prague. I guess about a year and a half ago, singing there in Prague, which was just a real treat. So yeah.
Awesome. So we are just having a few little internet connection difficulties. So hopefully it's not disrupting you too much, but we'll keep on going. We do have a few more questions coming through. Jasari D, which is also from our quiz, has said, what is your all-time favorite musical and opera?
Totally. So I grew up seeing a lot of musical theater and singing some as a kid, and that was really kind of the first music and sort of first stage stuff that I loved. And I would say my favorite musical is kind of an obscure musical that I really fell in love with, like my freshman year of high school or something like that, called Next to Normal, which is just this amazing show about a woman who's mentally ill and the kind of impacts on her family and those around her. And it had a strong resonance for me, and I just really loved that show. And I went to see it like a dozen times. So that's probably my favorite musical. And favorite opera, I've got to go with still what was my first opera and what is probably the most famous opera and the best first opera you can see, which is La Boheme by Puccini. It was my kind of great fortune that the raffle ticket I happened to win to go see that opera when I was in university was for La Boheme, and it kind of combines everything that I think makes opera special, at least to me, the kind of larger than life human emotions that get portrayed on the stage. And what I think is so masterful about La Boheme is the kind of sign of a great opera composition to me is the kind of use of themes, like musical themes, in ways that come back in such interesting and different ways, so that kind of the more you listen to the opera, the more you actually hear and kind of can understand and sort of taste. And La Boheme is just kind of like so high kind of in that respect, and just the way Puccini like intertwines all the different themes of the different characters when people are falling in love and dying and everything is going on, and the way it all kind of develops is just truly, I mean, it makes it a masterpiece. And so I just love, love, love La Boheme. And if you've never been to an opera and want to go to one, I would definitely recommend La Boheme as your first opera, or maybe I would recommend it as your second opera, and your first opera should be A Midsummer Night's Dream here at the Adelaide Festival in about a month.
Not biased at all.
No, totally unbiased.
Beautiful, wonderful suggestions. And as you say, once it's your favorite, you can't see it just once. You've got to keep watching it again.
Totally.
Awesome. Andriana may have missed you mentioning this earlier, but she's just asking, did you realize you had such a lovely voice when you were younger, and how many hours do you practice?
Totally. So, so I'm what's called a countertenor. And I kind of stumbled into being a countertenor. There are very few countertenors. There may be 60 or 70 countertenors in the world kind of singing sort of at a high level professionally versus, poor sopranos. There are tens of thousands of sopranos kind of out there singing and trying to make it. So we're very fortunate, and I say it's the best niche to have kind of landed in. But yeah, I first started singing when I was in middle school. At least that's what we call it in the U.S. I don't know I forget what the terminology is here, but in like sixth grade or so, I was at a friend's American Idol themed birthday party, which was the big thing at the time. It was like basically a karaoke party spun as like an American Idol party, and I sang mine, and apparently it was yes. Then the other kid went to my parents and said, "Hey," or maybe this was even fourth or fifth grade, I forget, but hey, Aryeh, he's got a really special voice. It's not just like every other kid. You should kind of do something with it. And my parents, who are not musical at all, we don't have any kind of music or let alone opera or anything like that in the family, but they sort of did a little research and ended up placing me in a children's choir that was around the corner from the Jewish school I was attending in Brooklyn at the time. And to my great fortune, it was the Brooklyn Youth Chorus, which is one of they're kind of two competing premier children's choirs in New York City, and that was one of them. And we got to do so many cool things. We were singing at Carnegie Hall and Lincoln Center all the time, and we got to do a lot of fun pop gigs, and that was probably the coolest thing. We sang backup for Sting and Sheryl Crow and James Taylor and Billy Joel, and probably top of the list was Elton John. We sang backup for his 60th birthday concert at a sold-out Madison Square Garden, and it's all been downhill since then. It was really a very special experience, and I was a very kind of exuberant kid, and most kids were just sort of like standing still, singing, and me, I mean, I'm singing backup for Elton John. We've got 20 something thousand people in front of us. I was dancing my ass off and just having a great time. And the camera people kind of for the Jumbotron sort of noticed me, this one kid in the choir really having a good time. And they ended up like sort of focusing in on me, and they showed me up on the Jumbotron something like 70 times, and people like recognized me as I was walking out of the garden, like, hey, you're that kid from the choir, right? um, but so just one of the like amazing experiences we got to have in the chorus. But yeah, so I kind of became a countertenor because I was in this chorus that was doing all these amazing things. And the chorus is made up of girls and a couple of boys whose voices haven't dropped, who haven't kind of fully hit puberty. And when my voice dropped, when I was in sixth or seventh grade, whenever it was, I'd been in the choir for a couple of years and we were doing all these awesome things. And I just didn't want to leave the choir. So I kind of finagled and tried to still sing the high notes and keep up with the girls. And they had me come in and re-audition. And they said I was decent enough at singing the high notes still that I could stay, and honestly, that's how I kind of became a countertenor, and just from singing in that kind of range every day, basically since my voice dropped, I think it just sort of strengthened it over time, and kind of ended up proving to be really useful in ways I had absolutely no idea or didn't anticipate at the time. But yeah, and how many hours a day do I practice? So one of my favorite things too about being a singer is the sort of physiology of what's actually making the noise and vibrating in your throat. It's these incredibly delicate muscles, your vocal cords. And so you can't actually sing that much a day, which is fantastic. So if a pianist wants to make it as a professional pianist, they have to spend, 12 hours a day, every single day at the piano, just banging everything out and really working, working, working. But we can't sing more than about 2 hours a day without starting to strain your voice and kind of hurt those delicate muscles. So yeah, I probably sing about between an hour and two every day, and that's kind of singing time. And then there's a lot of other kind of work that goes behind it that I spend probably 3 hours a day, 3-4 hours a day, kind of doing all sorts of score study and memorization, obviously, and yeah, just kind of prepping roles and things. And whenever I'm rehearsing one thing, I'm usually working on whatever's next. So right now I'm sort of getting ready for obviously the production here and my recital here, but at the same time I'm learning some of the new roles that I'm doing in the next year and 2 years, and so yeah, kind of working on that sort of quietly without using my voice too much, but kind of working the brain so that I kind of get as much done as I can. And it's been a very productive 9 days so far here in quarantine with nowhere to go. It's been great.
Glad we could help with that. But you're so right. It's not just your voice. There's lots else that goes on. It's all about the performance and everything that you do as well, and the musicality. So don't strain your voice too hard whilst you're here.
Yeah.
All right. What else do we have? Someone's writing. We have Hannah Rowe again, who wants to know what you're looking forward to visiting whilst you're in Australia.
Oh, totally. So I wish that I could kind of, while I'm here, also go to Melbourne and Sydney. And I have family actually in both Melbourne and Sydney. And I have a cousin who lived in Perth for many years who wanted to kind of come down and take me out there. But obviously, with all the kind of border issues and everything going on, it seems like it's not going to happen this time. And I'm hoping that if I, have gotten to come here at this sort of early part of my career, that hopefully it means I'll be back again and we'll have the time to go add a couple weeks on to my next gig in Australia and kind of go see all those things and go up to the reef and everything. But I've been sort of planning out, one of the other things I've been doing while I'm here is I love planning out little excursions and trips and things, and yeah, doing all that kind of stuff when I travel. So I've been planning out things I hope to do while I'm here on my days off, and when I have a couple days off. So I'm hoping to I'm planning a little getaway to Kangaroo Island, and going to do some snorkeling that I was just looking up down here in South Australia on the coast, and hoping to obviously go wine tasting. This seems like there's a lot of fabulous wine around here, and kind of reminds me of home in San Francisco. We love going wine tasting up in Napa and Sonoma, and so I'm excited to kind of make my way around the wine valleys here, and also, yeah, just doing some hiking in the Flinders, and just hoping to kind of go around a little bit. I love hiking, and just the outdoors in general is kind of probably my biggest hobby. So yeah, so I'm excited to kind of try and explore those things, and just to get to know Australia a little bit.
I'll cut in and ask, how long are you actually here in Adelaide for once your quarantine finishes?
Yes, I'm here for another like 6.5 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a good amount of time. So enough time to sort of get away here for a day and there for a day and here for two
Yeah.
days. And yeah, that's one of my favorite things too. I'll say just about being an opera singer is that what's nice is we do kind of two kinds of gigs usually. There are concert gigs and then opera gigs. And concert gigs are usually pretty quick. You're in a city for about a week, you rehearse for a day or two, and then do a couple performances and go home. But what I love is that the opera gigs tend to be at least 6 weeks long, sometimes as long as 3 months, kind of between a month and 3 months, I would say usually. And it's hard to be away from home for that long at a time, but it means you really get to kind of get to know the places that you visit a lot more than your typical visitor might, and yeah, and just getting to kind of settle into a routine in a new city, I just really love. And as I hear the kind of trams going by every day, I'm excited to get out there and settle into my own little routine here in Adelaide when the time comes.
Definitely. Okay. Are there any certain foods or things you avoid to keep your voice in top shape?
Totally. So yeah, it depends, I guess, how good of shape I want to be in. But if I want to be in like tip-top shape, I definitely do eat very kind of clean, just a lot of like lean proteins and vegetables, and avoiding dairy. Um, yeah, dairy is the main thing that kind of just can create phlegm, and yeah, and spicy food you avoid as well, just because it can create irritation from heartburn and whatnot, can kind of irritate the voice. So yeah, when it's the finals of a competition or right around performance time, I tend to avoid a lot of things. But in normal times, I try to kind of negotiate and eat as much as I can of sort of normal things and stay in as good of shape as I need to be vocally. Just because otherwise I'll never get to eat the good things that I like, and I love cheese, and to go like all year without eating any dairy would be very sad. So yeah, I'd say I kind of go back and forth with the times.
Hopefully, everything we're giving you here supports your voice.
Absolutely, it's been great. It's been great. The food has definitely been a highlight. I know I've been talking with some of the other folks here, in quarantine, sort of friends I made in the process of getting from the airport to here, and we're all definitely feeling lucky that compared to some of the photos we've seen of food in some of the other hotels, we are eating very well here, and we are very
Oh.
appreciative to the kitchen staff.
Beautiful. Okay. We might give it a couple more minutes, see if anybody else has any other questions. Does anybody in the room here with me have any questions? Chris, what were you asking before? Chris, our audio-visual manager, was asking about your vocal range. So you talked about what you're classified as, but how many octaves can you reach?
Yeah, so yeah, I'd say probably about 3.5 or 4 octaves I can kind of reach, but I don't really sing in that much of the range. The way it works, the kind of muscle memory, in anything you do, your muscles kind of just develop this sort of like memory of how they default into acting certain ways when you go to throw a pitch every time or go to run every time, whatever it is. And it's the same thing with the vocal cords. So even though I can sing kind of baritone and tenor, those sort of like lower, more typical male voice types, if I have my vocal cords kind of singing in that way and then go back to trying to sing as a countertenor in the upper range, the vocal cords get really confused. So I usually only use basically my kind of countertenor range, which is about 2 octaves, but I can go a lot lower and a little bit higher. But yeah, I try to stay where I'm kind of most comfortable. There are some singers who love doing all sorts of crazy things, kind of all over the range, but
Well, that
I'm
was
not.
his favorite performances. Yeah. That's very impressive. Maritz, our general manager, who has walked in here and is watching as well, has asked your favorite venue that you've performed at.
Yeah. I mean, I would say the Metropolitan Opera. Yeah. I mean, there's nothing I think will ever top. No matter, I'm very lucky. In opera, things tend to be planned like 3-4 years in advance, so I kind of know where I'm singing for the next, up through like 2023 into 2024, and I'm gonna get to sing in a lot of amazing opera houses, particularly in Europe, and I'm really excited. But I think the Metropolitan Opera will always be number one, at least for me.
Hold a
It's
special
just
place.
yeah, exactly.
Sorry? Yeah. Stu says until you try the Sydney Opera House.
I was gonna say, although yes, absolutely. Hopefully one day, knock on wood.
Excellent. Well, I think that is everything that we have of questions that have come through. Thank you so much for taking the time. You had some time.
There we go.
Fantastic. It's been wonderful getting to chat with you and listen to you. It is a very interesting story that your life has taken from where you started in history through to your performance career. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. And we all look forward to seeing you in 5 days' time.
Yeah, thank you so much again to everyone at the Playford and to my room neighbors who have sort of, I guess, started to listen as I practice over the balcony. And yeah, thank you all for everything.
And hopefully everyone can, if they're hanging around longer, can see you at the Adelaide Festival.
Yeah. Yes. Hopefully.
Sounds great. Thank you so much, Aryeh. We will talk with you soon and probably see you in quiz tomorrow.
See you in the quiz tomorrow, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.